This meeting will now come to order. In an effort to prevent the spread of novel coronavirus, COVID-19, this meeting is being conducted by video teleconference. We welcome those of you joining us via the meeting portal and hope that everyone is safe and healthy. I will now ask Board Member Mr. Wade Stanfield to read the Education Professional Standards Board mission statement. Mr. Stanfield?
Yes, good morning, everyone. The Education Professional Standards Board, in full collaboration and cooperation with its education partners, promotes high level of student achievement by establishing and enforcing rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, and responsible and ethical behavior of all professional educators in Kentucky.
Thank you. Joining us from the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet as designee for the Lieutenant Governor is Susan Reber. Leah Sharp from the Office of Legal Services will administer the oath to Ms. Reber to swear her into EPSB. Thank you both for joining us today.
Ms. Reber, I will read the oath in its entirety, ask you to raise your right hand, and then ask for you to swear or affirm at the conclusion. I do solemnly swear, or affirm as the case may be, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as I continue a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute, to the best of my ability, the office of Board Member of the Education Professional Standards Board according to law. And I do further solemnly swear or affirm that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state, nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God. Ms. Reber?
Agree, so help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the EPSB, Ms. Reber. We look forward to hearing your report from the Cabinet a little later in the meeting. But at this time, would you please take a few moments to introduce yourself to the other board members?
Hi, all. My name is Susan Reber. I am Chief of Staff for the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet, as well as for Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman. I have been in state government now since 2006 or 7, I can't remember. I have worked for Governor Steve Beshear, as well as I was his wife's chief of staff, and then I worked in the AG's office. I've been closely working with KDE, CPE, and all of our education institutions since being in the Lieutenant Governor's office and with Education and Workforce Development. I really admire the work you all do, and I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. Sharon Chesser joining us today as Board Secretary. Ms. Chesser, thank you for joining us, and will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, present.
Susan Reber. Elijah
Present.
Edwards.
Sorry.
It's okay. Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards.
Excuse me. Kathy Gunn. Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, present.
Tracy Hunt. Jacqueline Mayfield. Justin Mitchell. Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, present.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rudzinski, present.
Amber Snell. Amber Snell.
My unmute's not coming up quick enough. I'm here. Amber
okay.
Snell, present.
Okay. Carmen Souder. Beth Spradlin.
Beth Spradlin, present.
Wade Stanfield.
Wade Stanfield, present.
Julian Vasquez, High League.
Julian Vasquez, High League, present.
Sarah Wiegman.
Sarah Weedman, present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent items. The following items are listed on the agenda as consent items. A, approval of the June 21, 2021 EPSB meeting minutes. B, board approval for teacher coach online courses. Does anyone wish to remove either of the items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Having received no request to remove items from the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve consent items A and B?
Elijah Edwards, I make the motion to approve consent items A and B.
Mr. Edwards with the motion. Thank you. Is there a second?
Amber
A
Snell.
second.
Ms. Snell with the second. The motion before the board is to approve consent items A and B. As this meeting is being conducted via video teleconference, we will have a roll call vote for each vote. Ms. Chesser, will you call the roll? I would like to remind each board member to please state their name, pause for a moment, and then state their vote. Ms. Chesser?
Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber.
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rudzinski, yes.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin.
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield.
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez, High League.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Do we know if Dr. Glass is with us yet?
Dr. Glass has not been able to join us yet.
Thank you. Board, we will shift down in the agenda to information item, and when Dr. Glass joins us, we will pause our work to receive his report. So we will be on information items. These items are presented to the board for review and discussion only. Both information items will be presented by Ms. Chelsea Young. We will begin with information item A, and I'm on page 52 of the agenda book. Ms. Young?
Chelsea, I believe you are muted. It is Monday morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
16 KAR 1030 is the regulation that governs procedures for certificate revocation, suspension, reinstatement, reissuance, or certificate denial. This regulation was essentially rewritten in 2016 with an effective date of March 3rd, 2017. However, the regulation has not been amended since. And best practice dictates that we review our regulations periodically. So the proposed amendment includes minor revisions to the formatting and order of the sections, adds sections on the superintendent's duty to report, requests for a private hearing by an educator or their attorney, and motions to reconsider. We have also removed the former EPSB office address that was in the regulation and corrected a timing issue to match the requirement in statute. And you do have the entire proposed amended regulation in your materials. Does anybody have any questions for me at this time?
Thank you. I don't hear any questions, so we will move on to information item B, which is on page 63 of the agenda book. Ms.
Okay.
Young?
Information item B is the procedures that kind of correspond with the regulation. And so in reviewing the regulation, we also wanted to review the procedures that govern educator cases. These procedures were created in 2017 and they have not been amended since. The proposed amended procedures are included in your materials, and I know they do look messy. That is because of the track changes. But what we did is we removed a lot of the redundant language that is already in statute or regulation. We have also reordered sections to more closely align with the day-to-day processes of staff, added introductory language in front of each section to make it clear what each section is actually about, and included the board's authority for each section. We added some clarifying sections and adjusted definitions. We have also removed the references throughout to the EPSB's former executive director. We also updated the term board with EPSB to match the other regulations of the board. The proposed procedures are actually much shorter, but we hope that they have a little bit more information for the reader to outline the board's processes related to educator cases and action against a certificate. Does anybody have any questions on the procedures at this time?
Ms. Young, I have one question. So after we've reviewed it as an information item, just remind us what that process is with the KAR regulations.
Okay, so I may have Cassie jump in here, but the next step would be we would bring the regulation and the procedures back at the October meeting for action items. If there were no changes that the board wished to make at that time, then the proposed regulation would be filed with LRC, and there would be a comment period for the public to outline any comments that they had. We would hold a public hearing if we receive those requests, and then it would proceed through the regulatory process, which includes a couple of meetings, and I'll let Cassie explain that. But it is a lengthy process, so it will be a little while before the regulation is effective, but the procedures would be able to be effective if they were approved by the board in October.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Young on information item B? Hearing none, we will move on to action items. Thank you, Ms. Young.
Thank you.
These action items are presented to the board for action and will require a motion and a vote. Action item A is presented by Ms. Cassie Trueblood. We are on page 96 of the agenda. Ms. Trueblood?
Good morning. So the three regulations that I have for you today as action items A, B, and C are a continuation of the regulation review that the board has been doing through the last couple of meetings. And this is a part of KRS Chapter 13A's requirements that agencies review their regulations every 7 years or the regulation expires. As part of the process, the agency reviews the administrative regulations in its entirety for compliance with the current laws governing the subject matter of the regulation, and then they will file a letter with the regulation compiler prior to the expiration date stating whether you wish for the regulation to remain in effect as is, or if you are planning to amend the regulation. These three regulations were certified with the intent to amend, and that letter was filed with the regulations compiler back in February of 2020, and you were given 18 months in which to amend those regulations. So we do have to file amended regulations prior to August 26th for the regulations to remain in effect. Now, these three are coming to you a little bit later than the others because we have worked with the Office of Special Education and Early Learning on the content of these regulations because they do specifically involve special education. So today we are bringing these to you for the first time and asking that you, if you wish to approve, that you go ahead and waive the second reading and approve the regulations. But digging into the actual individual regulations, the first one that we have for action item A is 16 KAR 2040, and this is the Interdisciplinary Early Childhood Education Birth to Primary regulation, the IECE regulation as it's more commonly referred to. And this establishes the professional certificate for IECE and the standards for approval of the program leading to this certificate. The proposed amendment is included for you in its entirety on page 98 of the agenda book, but it updates the grade point average required for issuance to align with those other certificates, where it's a 2.75 or a 3.0 on the last hours. And it also updates the standards of preparation to the most recent standards by those organizations. The preparation standards are also included with the regulation. And then it removes portions of the regulation that are now contained in other regulations, specifically the portions of the previous regulation around program approval. Those are really contained in 16 KAR 5010 and are no longer needed in a separate regulation. So again, that is contained in the agenda book for you. We ask that the board does approve this regulation and waive the second reading. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Trueblood. So the action question before the board is, should the EPSB approve the amendment to 16 KAR 2:040 by waiving the second reading? Approve it today. Is there a motion?
Susan Reber, so moved.
Ms. Reber with the motion, and is your motion to waive the second reading?
Yes.
And approve the amendment to 16 KAR 2:040. Thank you, Ms. Reber. Is there a second?
Amanda Ellis, second.
Dr. Ellis with the second. The motion before the board is to waive the second reading and approve the amendment to 16 KAR 2:040. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez, High League,
Julian Vasquez, High League, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Next, we will move on to action item B on page 182 of the agenda book, and the action question before the board is, should the EPSB approve the amendment to 16 KAR 2:050? Ms. Trueblood?
Yes, thank you. This administrative regulation establishes the certificates for teachers of exceptional children communication disorders, and also the corresponding standards for issuance of those certificates. The proposed amendment removes the reference to certification deadlines and an application that are no longer applicable. You can see the deadline for issuance of the standard certificate was September 1st of 2000. So as we are well past that deadline, we are removing that from the regulation. The amendment also updates the required years of experience for issuance of the speech language pathology assistant certificate from 1 to 2 to align with the requirements that are contained in KRS 161053. And the amendment also expands the renewal requirements for those certificates. Are there any questions? And that full regulation, amended regulation, is included starting on page 184 of your agenda book.
Thank you. Hearing no questions, we will move on to If there's a motion and you are, if this motion is made to waive the second reading and approve the amendment as presented, is there a motion?
Beth Spradlin, make a motion to approve 16 KAR 2050 and waive the second reading.
Thank you, Ms. Spradlin with the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stanfield with the second. Is there any the motion before the board is to waive the second reading and approve the amendment to 16 KAR 2:050. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards, Elijah Edwards,
Oh, I'm sorry. Did it not come through? Elijah Edwards.
okay. Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rosinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And sound like there was an extra vote there from Dr. Ellis's dog. Always nice to hear the pups. The motion passes. So next we will move on to action item C. Action item C. I'm on page 190 of the agenda book. The action question before the board is, should the EPSB approve the amendment to 16 KAR 4:020? And I believe Ms. Trueblood will be presenting that as well. Ms. Trueblood?
Yes, this regulation establishes the certification requirements for teachers of exceptional children. This was a regulation where we worked extensively with the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. So really want to thank their staff for their input on all of these regulations, but specifically this one, and helping us to align Section 1 with the current special education certificates. The amendment removes language for certificates that are no longer issued. You'll see as you are looking at those that many of the certificates are no longer certificates issued by the EPSB. So we have updated that language to include new certificates, as well as updated the procedures for requesting a waiver of the assignment of teachers or of exceptional students to align with current practices, and then have removed unnecessary portions of the regulation. Again, that full amended regulation is included on page 192. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Trueblood. Is there a motion?
Sherry Powers, I make a motion to approve action item C, 16 KAR 4.020. And do I need to also make a motion to waive the second reading?
Yes, if you want to combine those all into one motion. Oh.
Okay.
Beth Spradlin, I will second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve and waive the second reading and approve the amendment to 16 KAR 4:020. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on action item C passes. Dr. Glass has now joined us, and so we are going to pause and return to the report of the commissioner. Today, we are pleased to have Commissioner of Education and Chief Learner, Dr. Jason Glass, joining us as Executive Secretary to the EPSB. Welcome, Dr. Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. It's great to connect with all of you. I know that this is an incredibly busy time, any time of year. August and getting school started is busy on its own, and it's made busier by all of the things that we have to manage and navigate that we hoped that we hadn't. We have our unwelcomed visitor still with us. That's been with us for the last year and a half and now disrupting what is going on the third year of educational services for our kids and our staff members. I think that's probably where I will focus my update to you, just on things that are happening on that front. We anticipated there would be some level of disruption related to COVID-19, just as we saw the numbers start to climb back up in late July, and expecting that we would have some disruptions because of that. Through that, the Board of Education, the State Board of Education, put in place a couple of procedures to allow districts to continue operating and as supports to students and as supports to staff members. One of those was to allow school districts to continue to draw funding for students that were placed on quarantine if they continued to deliver services to those students while they were quarantined. So one of the issues that we had is that we expected large numbers of students to have to be quarantined after a possible COVID exposure. And given Kentucky's use of average daily attendance as the funding account mechanism, districts would have been forced to choose between not having funding for those students in the days that they were out, or trying to reclassify them as home hospital care, which really wasn't appropriate in this case. So the State Board of Education created a temporary new funding pathway, and that is if a student is placed into quarantine from a medical professional or from a public health official, then the district can continue to serve that student much in the same way that we served students all of much of last year as we had disruptions, and the district can continue to draw funding for that student as if they were in person. Another support that the State Board of Education put in place was around quarantine leave. Not only did we expect that we would have students that would be placed on quarantine and that would create funding issues, we expected that we'd have staff that would be quarantined, and then we would run into problems with their leave and worried about that we would be creating incentives for employees who may be sick or may have been exposed to come into work because they didn't want to draw down the sick leave that they had. So the state board also created a quarantine leave as a benefit for all school employees. So if an employee is directed to quarantine from a public health official, from a medical professional, or from district administration, they can continue to draw their salary and not have those days count against their sick leave. The school district can ask the employee to have some responsibilities during that time. So if you had a teacher that, for example, was sent home, that teacher could service and support students remotely during during that time. And the district can ask for an employee to have a COVID test to determine if they have it or not. There is a condition on that leave that in order to be eligible for it, the employee must be vaccinated. So that's another element of it that we put in place to try and encourage vaccination to have access to this leave. But those two provisions are really just expecting that what we're expecting what we are experiencing was going to happen, and trying to put in place proactively some steps to accommodate that. Probably the action of the state board that's drawing the most attention right now is the masking emergency regulation that they put in place that requires universal masking for students in school settings and from age 2 and up. Of course, the governor has a masking mandate that he put in place through his executive order authority. The State Board of Education has a responsibility under the law to ensure the health and safety of students that are in Kentucky schools. So they're acting on that authority separate from the governor's authority under an executive order. So last week, the State Board of Education voted unanimously to put that in place. And therefore, it, along with the governor's executive order, are the law of the land when it comes to school procedures, COVID mitigation, that COVID mitigation strategy being deployed in schools. Where that coincides or intersects with the work that you may be doing, one of the consequences of not following the law is that it creates a licensure issue. So we are expecting and working with school districts and school leaders across the state to ensure that they are following the law. And if they disagree with this law, or they don't believe that the governor or the state board had the authority to do what those two political actors have done, then there are mechanisms to solve that. But you don't get to just decide that you are going to ignore the law or that has consequences. So we again hope that doesn't happen, but just as a awareness for you, we may have issues of educators or school leaders that are refusing to follow the law in Kentucky, and that's going to create a question for you as to do you wish to investigate that and potentially take action on the educator or the school leader's license because of that decision. One other thing that I'll just put on your radar, we would love to have all of you attend statewide education summit in November 1st and 2nd. That'll be in Louisville at the Kentucky International Convention Center. It's looking like we're going to be wearing masks at that, but I think we've shown that with the right precautions and procedures in place, we can have in-person events. We just have to be careful and thoughtful about that. It's the same logic that we really are applying to our schools, that we can and should have in-person events, but we need to be careful and do what we can to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. We have a lineup of really dynamic and exciting speakers, including Linda Darling-Hammond, Jean Wilhoit. We have Pedro Nagura and Rick Hess having a discussion around equity. We have Tony Wagner coming in to talk about the future of education. Our own Lou Young is going to be part of that. Lieutenant Governor Coleman is going to lead a student group talking about student mental health concerns, and she's doing data collection on that right now. And we'll unveil and roll out a future vision for education in the Commonwealth that we've been gathering data on for much of this past year through the listening tours that we had this past spring, and then a group that's been meeting this summer to sift through all of the extensive data that we collected in those listening tours and establish profiles of users of our education system, be that parents or business leaders or teachers or educators or students, and what their experiences are and what we'd like them to be. So what we hope emerges from that is that future vision and also clarity around the work. How do we bridge from where we are to where we'd like to be? So I'll pause there, Madam Chair, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those. Otherwise, I will turn things back to you for the rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Glass? Hearing none, Dr. Glass, be safe, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will continue on with the meeting. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I will recognize for the report from the Education and Workforce Development Captain, Susan Reber. Ms. Reber?
Hi, thank you, Lisa. Yes, well, the commissioner touched on what we are all concerned with right now is the health of our students and our educators in our schools. There is a meeting tomorrow. Trying to get it's the Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee in the legislature will be having a hearing on the KBE's decision and vote. I don't know what time that is off the top of my head. I believe it's at 10 a.m., but that will be available via the KET legislative channel. We have heard from our student voice team that they have requested to be on the agenda to speak in favor of KBE's decision. So this is something to watch. Obviously, this has gotten a bit out of hand and has become political in nature. But our ultimate goal is from the cabinet, from the administration, is to keep our children and our educators and everyone in the Commonwealth safe and healthy. That is our primary concern. This is obviously continues to be time consuming on all of our parts, and we certainly appreciate our educators for doing their part to get students back in the classroom, which we know is so desperately needed for our kids. I did want to flag that the Lieutenant Governor will be doing a press announcement at 2:30 today at KDE. She will be announcing the winners, the grant awardees for the Grow Your Own teaching program. We awarded out of the cabinet $1 million in statewide reserve funding out of the WIOA program to the Kentucky Academy in Teaching programs, along with CPE was a recipient as well, and they are working on their higher ed portion, as Amanda knows. But we will be announcing the 10 winners of $50,000 grants. So those 10 districts will be announced today at 2:30. If you would like to tune in, it will be streamed live. That's about it for me without getting into the weeds on a lot of activities going on at Education and Workforce right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I am remiss, I did not mention that former representative from the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet who had joined us for the past few meetings, John Lyons, has accepted a different position, resulting in his departure from the board, which is why Ms. Reber has now rejoined us. And so we do wish Mr. Lyons well in his future endeavors. Next, we'll hear from the Council on Post-Secondary Education, and that will be Dr. Ellis. Dr. Ellis, it's good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you as well. So just a couple things, just so we can get back to the flow. But CPE just issued a second report. If you will remember, about a year ago, we had the dual credit impact for the four-year universities. We just released the outcomes of KCTCS students that were enrolled in both academic and technical pathways. Really interesting information. Overall, we know dual credit does have an impact for sustainability and success. And so I would definitely encourage you to take a look at that study but on both academic and technical tracks to see the outcomes. We will have a dual credit 3.0 that gets more into the weeds of what many of our provosts and deans have asked about, of impact to the gateway courses, success and sustainability. Are they transferring into actual general education courses, or are they mainly going into electives? So is it a meaningful investment for our high school students? So that will be coming up. As Susan mentioned, we do have competitive grants right now. Because it is a smaller amount of money, it is for public universities right now for educator preparation programs to really increase the diversity of their teacher candidates. And so that is posted, but we hope to expand that in the future, and we'll see how this one goes. We're really excited it has been released. The other thing I just want to bring to your attention is just going along with the support around COVID and safety. As you know, Dr. Thompson and the 8 public university presidents and the president of KCTCS colleges did all sign an agreement to mask up this fall indoors to be supportive and unified in keeping our students safe and ultimately on campus and engaged in their education. And so I know Dr. Thompson's very proud of that and appreciative of his presidents and to be in support of that work. I will stop there so we can continue the meeting, but thank you for the time and glad to be here today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ellis. And now we'll hear the report from Associate Commissioner Dr. Darnell. Dr. Darnell?
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Fantastic to be here with you all. Just also want to recognize and give praise to many of you all who have begun the school year and are already active, or at least getting very close to. And then each and every one of us has an important role to play in terms of the success of our schools. So let it not go unsaid, just the level of appreciation and importance of the work that you're doing here, but more importantly, the work that you are doing with the students and the services that you're providing. There's a lot of difficult topics to sort of sit on. I will say that the best reward of what we do often does not come in real time. And just as an example of this, just last night I received a text and it was a former student with talking about an invitation to his wedding. And so just a reminder, and it's just those small things that may take years to develop, but are so important in the relationships that we foster. And really and truly, there's just magic going on each and every day, and it's easy to forget that. So my gratitude to you all and what is occurring out in the field. I also want to just extend my gratitude and gratefulness to the OELE leaders. They are just absolutely working magic all the time. Just impressed with their dedication to their craft, making sure that we're providing a level of service to the field that is necessary. And as you've seen already, some have come before you, some are in the background, but their work is what makes this happen. And I'm so thankful and want to just give them their due praise for all that is going on each and every day. Just a few things to hit on. As Dr. Ellis mentioned, we have plenty to do, so I will try to be terse. I do want to just recognize that I don't have the total numbers updated yet, but I do know that certification has processed over 2,500 applications, more than this time last year. So just some perspective on the level of productivity and getting teachers their certification and a variety of other certifications as well and endorsements. So a lot of hard work going into making that process run as smoothly as possible. Also received, just thankful to receive a recognition from Dr. Schroeder in UK. Just mentioned that 449.25 days were used as student teachers in substitute teaching positions. And just to show the impact that this is having, it's been immediate, and just continue to receive a level of gratitude for allowing student teachers to fulfill substitute roles. And coming from the building not long ago, I can also attest to using this, and having the opportunity just really was a godsend in so many ways. So just want to put that out there for the work that you all are doing. Also mention the Grow Your Own grants. Today is going to be a great afternoon because we get to award a lot of money, real money. $500,000 for 10 recipients at $50,000 each. And not to reiterate what Ms. Reber said, but it is just a great opportunity for districts to embrace a chance to recruit within their own school districts. And many of us have probably seen or been involved perhaps in those that come into paraprofessional roles. There's always just an opportunity, it seems, to encourage, and this will give an economic boost to be able to do that. So very exciting announcement this afternoon. We are also working with CCSSO on high quality instructional resources. You know, that's a mouthful, but our cooperating EPPs have been very generous and have nominated individuals to serve on advisory as we continue to have just deep discussions about what constitutes highly qualified instructional resources. And we had our first official meeting last week, and it was an excellent conversation, and appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with our preparation programs and to tighten that loop even more. Also, we will continue to be able to apply ESSER APR awards as well. So the OELE has been approved for some significant monies in terms of the ESSER 2, ESSER 3 that just recently came to fruition. So we will have an opportunity primarily focused on new teacher support and induction and orientation into the field. So we're really using this money to try and focus on sort of the void that has been left since KTIP is no longer in play. So we're really hoping to seed some progress in terms of how we continue to support our new teacher and new professionals. Got interrupted at the Kentucky Board of Education. We had to do a little shuffling. So I was due to give the OELE update at that meeting, but we'll do so, I think, coming up in September, but we'll keep them abreast of all the fine work that each and every one of you all are doing. I'm always at your disposal, and if there's anything that I can possibly do or assist with, I just want to make myself available to you all, and I appreciate you all being here with us today. Madam Chair?
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Darnell? Okay, I don't hear any. Dr. Darnell, you've done a great job. You've hit the ground running and taking on all of these challenges in such unprecedented times. And
everyone's happy, right?
I would like to echo your comments to the OELE staff. We couldn't have these meetings without them, so they are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also going to skip back to the board chair, the report from the chair. I have an appointment to make to the Accreditation and Audit Committee. This committee reviews the accreditation materials for educator preparation providers and prepares a recommendation for the EPSB with respect to the accreditation of the institution, as well as the approval of individual programs. Faye Dieters is reappointed as the education preparation provider representative and the chair for the committee. Thank you, Dr. Dieters, for your willingness to continue to serve. And I have no other updates. Moving back into our agenda, I believe we are now moved to action item D. Action item D, which is Georgetown College accreditation of the educator preparation provider and approval of programs. And Ms. Margaret Hawkinsmith will be joining us. And members, I'm on page 200 of the agenda book. Ms. Hawkinsmith?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before I introduce the chair of the EPSB's Accreditation Audit Committee, I want to make a brief comment regarding the regulatory requirement for accreditation and program review. The board voted on revisions to the regulation related to accreditation and program review for the EPPs at their June meeting. In those revisions that you're perhaps most familiar with, when that goes into effect in early 2022, an EPP that seeks national accreditation no longer has to concurrently go through state accreditation. However, today, you are reviewing and deciding on the accreditation of 4 EPPs that fall under the current regulation. 3 of these EPPs have gone through a national accreditation decision prior to your state accreditation decision. The other one is seeking state-only accreditation. In review to your accreditation decision, the AAC also reviews and makes a recommendation to the board regarding the approval of all certification programs offered at the EPP. I'll now hand over the presentation to the AAC chair, Dr. Faye Dieters, with her summary.
Thank you, Margaret. Good morning, everyone. The joint case accreditation site visit for Georgetown College occurred on November the 1st through 3rd, 2020. The site visit was conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The national and state site visitors reviewed the accreditation of Georgetown College's initial and advanced programs related to the current 5 CAPE standards, as well as the carryover of 4 previous NCATE issued areas for improvement and 1 EPSB issued area for improvement based on the NCATE review and their prior accreditation in 2013. After the off-site formative review and on-site visit in the fall of 2020, the site visitors recommended no areas for improvement. The CAPE Accreditation Council met in April of 2021 and made the national accreditation decision and found all standards were met by the EPP and issued no areas for improvement. The EPSB's Accreditation Audit Committee reviews and recommends both state accreditation of the EPP and program approval of every licensure program an EPP offers per KAR 5010. The AAC met on June the 15th, 2021, and examines all the materials from the off-site and on-site accreditation reviews for Georgetown College, as well as their program review documents. The AAC agreed with the CAPE findings of no areas for improvement and the removal of the 4 previous NCATE issued areas for improvement. Furthermore, the AAC recommends removal of the 1 previous EPSB issued area for improvement. The AAC's recommendations to the board are 1, accreditation, and 2, approval of the initial level and advanced educator preparation programs at Georgetown College.
Thank you. So the action question before the board is, should the EPSB grant continuing CAEP/EPSB state accreditation to the EPP and approve the initial and advanced preparation programs at Georgetown College? Is there a motion?
Elijah Edwards, make the motion to approve the accreditation and approve the initial and advanced educator programs at Georgetown College.
Wade Stanfield, second.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards with the motion and Mr. Stanfield with the second. The motion before the board is to approve the accreditation and approve, the initial and advanced educator programs at Georgetown College. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
And the motion passes. Next, we will move on to action item E. I'm on page 203 of the agenda book, and this is in reference to Kentucky State University, accreditation of the educator, preparation provider, and approval of programs. Ms. Hawkinsmith.
I defer to Dr. Dieters to continue with her presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dieters.
Thank you. The Joint CAPE State Accreditation Site Visit for Kentucky State University occurred on October the 4th through 6th, 2020. The site visit was conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The national and state site visitors reviewed the accreditation of Kentucky State University related to the current 5 CAPE standards, as well as the carryover of 2 previous EPSB issued areas for improvement based on the NCATE review in their prior accreditation visit in 2013. After the off-site formative review and on-site visit in fall 2020, the site visitors recommended 2 areas for improvement. The CAPE Accreditation Council met in April 2021 and made the national accreditation decision and found all standards were met by the EPP and issued 2 areas for improvement in Standard 5 relating to the provider quality assurance and continuous improvement. The EPSB's Accreditation Audit Committee reviewed state accreditation of the EPP and program approval of every licensure program and EPP offers per KAR 5010. Examined all the materials from the on-site accreditation reviews for Kentucky State University, as well as their program review documents. The AAC agreed with the CAPE findings of issuing 2 AFIs in Standard 5. The AAC also recommended the removal of the 2 previous in-CAPE EPSB issued areas for improvement. The AAC's recommendations to the board are 1, accreditation, and 2, approval of the initial and advanced level educator preparation programs at Kentucky State University.
Thank you. Regarding action item E, I will need a motion.
I will offer a motion that we accept the recommendation for Kentucky State University.
Amber Snell, second.
Okay, Mr. Stanfield with the motion, Ms. Snell with the second. Just to clarify your motion, Mr. Stanfield, to approve the accreditation and also to approve the advanced educator programs at Kentucky State University?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So Mr. Stanfield with the motion, Ms. Snell with the second. The motion before the board is to approve the accreditation and approve the initial and advanced educator programs at Kentucky State University. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber, Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
And the vote on action item E passes. Next, we have action item F. Action item F is found on page 207 of your agenda book. Reference Union College accreditation of the educator preparation provider and approval of programs. Ms. Hawkinsmith and or Dr. Dieters.
I defer to Dr. Dieters.
Thank you. The joint Cape State accreditation site visit for Union College occurred on October the 18th through 20th, 2020. The site visit was conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The national and state site visitors reviewed the accreditation of the Union College's initial and advanced programs relative to the current 5 Cape standards, as well as the carryover of 3 previous in their prior accreditation visit in 2015. After the off-site formative review and on-site visit in fall 2020, the site visitors recommended 4 areas for improvement, 2 in Standard 4 and 2 in Standard 5. The Cape Accreditation Council met in April 2021 and made the accreditation decision and found all standards were met by the EPP and removed the 2 AFIs in Standard 4, but kept the 2 AFIs in Standard 5. The EPSB's Accreditation Audit Committee reviews and recommends both state accreditation of the EPP and program approval of every licensure program an EPP offers per KAR 5010. The AAC met on June 15, 2021 and examined all the materials from the off-site and on-site accreditation reviews for Union College, as well as their program review documents. The AAC agreed with the CAPE's findings for 2 areas of improvement for Standard 5 and the removal of 3 previous in-CAPE issued areas for improvement. The AAC recommendations to the board are 1, accreditation, and 2, approval of the initial and advanced level educator preparation programs at Union College.
Thank you. Is there a motion in reference to action item F?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to make the motion, but you're more than welcome.
No, you can make the motion and I'll second.
Okay. This is Donna Hedgepath, and I so move to approve the accreditation of their EPP and programs for Union College.
Thank you, Dr. Hedgepath, with the motion. Is there a second?
Wade Stanfield, second.
Mr. Stanfield with the second. The motion before the board is to approve the accreditation and approve the initial and advanced educator programs at Union College. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards. Elijah Edwards. Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber. Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin.
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield.
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Next, we will have action item G on page 211 of your agenda book in reference to Midway College, accreditation of the educator preparation provider and approval of programs. Ms. Hawkinsmith and/or Dr. Dieters.
This is Margaret. The board was sent an amended version of the staff note last week related to Midway University. There was an omission of an area for improvement in the body of the staff note, but you were sent that. So the next EPP Midway University will be presented by AAC member Ms. Danny Bradley.
Welcome, Ms. Bradley.
Thank you. The state-only accreditation site visit for Midway University occurred on November 15th to the 17th of 2020. The site visit was conducted virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The state site visitors reviewed the accreditation of Midway University's initial and advanced programs related to the current 5 CAPE standards, as well as the carryover of the 2 previous EPSB issued areas for improvement on the NCATE standards in their prior accreditation visit in 2013. After the off-site formative review and the on-site visit in the fall of 2020, the state site visitors recommended 14 areas for improvement across the initial and advanced standards and 2 stipulations related to standard 5.2 in both initial and advanced programs. The EPSB Accreditation Audit Committee reviews and recommends both state accreditation of the EPP and program approval of licensure program and EPP offers per KAR 5.010. The AAC met on June 15th, 2021 and examined all the materials from the off-site and on-site accreditation reviews for Midway University, as well as their program review documents. The AAC agreed with the site visitor findings of 13 areas for improvement, and after taking into consideration the rejoinder documentation submitted by the EPP, the team chair's response to the rejoinder, and the EPP presentation to the AAC recommended the removal of the AFI related to standard A3.3, advanced, and downgraded the stipulations in standard 5.2 initial and advanced to AFIs for 5.2 initial and advanced. The AAC recommends a total of 15 AFIs. Furthermore, the AAC recommended removal of the 2 previous EPSB issued areas for improvement as they are subsumed into the current CAPE standards and AFIs. The AAC recommendations to the board are 1, accreditation, and 2, approval of the initial and advanced level educator preparation programs at Midway University.
Thank you. I will need a motion in reference to action item G.
Sherry Powers. I move approval for the accreditation and initial and advanced level educator preparation programs at Midway University.
Thank you, Dr. Powers, with the motion. Is there a second?
Amber Snell, second.
And Amber Snell with the second. The motion before the board is to approve the accreditation and approve the initial and advanced educator programs at Midway University. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards, Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber, Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez, High League,
Julian Vasquez, Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Hawkinsmith, and thank you to the AAC and to Dr. Dieters and Danny Bradley for presenting the recommendations. I would also like to congratulate our new EPPs on their accreditation and program approvals. Next, we will move to action item H. I am on page 216 of the agenda book. It's in reference to 16 KAR 5:040, request to allow substitute teaching experience to qualify as student teaching experience for the 2021-2022 school year. And Dr. Darnell will be presenting to us. Dr. Darnell?
Yes. Basically, let me get to the right page here. This goes back to just the information that I was able to provide earlier to just support the fact that this regulatory change has been extremely beneficial at the school level and continue to receive multiple thank yous with regard to the ability to do so, and many, many requests as to whether or not this was going to be permitted again in this school year. So I assure you that the field is very much in support of this change and put before you all they would like to see this supported yet again.
Thank you. So the action question before us is, should the EPSB conditionally waive 16 KAR 5:040, section 5, subsection 6, and subsection 7 to allow experience that a student teacher acquires as an emergency certified substitute teacher to meet the requirements of student teaching during the 2021-2022 school year? Is there a motion?
Sarah Weedman, I motion to approve.
Ms. Weedman with the motion. Is there a second?
Wade Stanfield, second.
And Mr. Stanfield with the second. The motion before the board is to approve the conditional waiver to allow substitute teaching experience to qualify as student teaching experience for the 2021-2022 school year. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards, Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Halig,
Julian Vasquez Halig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Thank you again, Dr. Darnell. Moving on to action item I, request to approve remote student teaching observations for all educator preparation programs for the 2021-2022 school year. Ms. Jackson will be presenting, and I'm on page 218 of the agenda. Ms. Jackson.
Good morning. Due to the COVID-19 health crisis, university supervisors were unable to complete in-person observations of student teachers last school year. Our regulation states that a portion of these observations can be remote. However, they must have EPSB prior approval. Well, we gave that last year, and they were able to do their video observations. University supervisors are considered visitors in school buildings, and during the 2021 school year, schools restrict the number of visitors to their classroom in compliance with the spread of COVID-19. Additionally, intermittent school closures during the fall 2020 and spring 21 semesters, they required remote observations. We would like to approve this again for the 21-22 school year. If you have any questions, that'd be great.
Thank you. Is there a motion on action item I?
Beth Spradlin, make a motion to approve remote student teaching observations for the 2021-2022 school year.
Ms. Spradlin with the motion, Susan Reber with the
second.
So the motion before the board is to approve remote student teaching observations for all educator preparation programs for the 2021-2022 school year. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Jesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards, Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Halig,
Julian Vasquez Halig, approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. I'd like to thank all of our presenters today on action items. The board is now ready to move on to waiver requests. KRS 161.028 subsection 1N provides that the board has the authority to waive its administrative regulations when a request is submitted by an applicant for certification, a post-secondary institution, or a superintendent of a local school district. When requesting a waiver, the requesting party must submit to the board a written request along with the appropriate justification for the waiver. EPSB staff reviewed the waivers with the EPSB's waiver committee during an open meeting immediately prior to this meeting today, and the waiver committee formulated recommendations. Kathy Jackson, Margaret Hawkinsmith, and Crystal Ward will present the waiver request to the full board, and then waiver committee chair Dr. Sherry Powers will present the committee's recommendation for final action. We will start with waiver A, and waiver A is on page 219, and Kathy Jackson, looks like Kathy Jackson will start us off. Waiver A.
Yes, thank you. Morehead State University has requested a waiver of placements for a student who is a K through 12 major. He's in business technology, and Morehead State has been unable to find an elementary placement for this student. His name is Max Elam. They have found 2 placements for him. in high school settings. So they are asking that he be allowed to waive the elementary placement and serve his 70 days in high school. Do you have any questions?
Hearing no questions, Dr. Powers, what is the waiver committee's recommendation?
The Waiver Committee met this morning to review waiver requests and supporting documentation submitted by Morehead State University. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends to approve the waiver request.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Stanfield offers a motion to accept the waiver committee's recommendation for Max Elam.
Thank you. Is there a second? Oh, I heard
Second, Amanda Ellis.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. So the motion before the board is to approve waiver A. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Next, we have waiver B. Ms. Jackson, we're on page 224, members.
Western Kentucky University has submitted a waiver request for their student Paige Glass, a Spanish foreign language major. Our regulation states that a candidate pursuing a primary through grade 12 certificate shall have their student teaching balance between an elementary school and a middle high school placement. Western Kentucky Spanish major Paige Glass is assigned to student teach during the fall 2021 semester. It's rare, if ever, to find a certified teacher at the elementary level for Spanish. Every effort has been made to find an elementary and middle high school placements. They have done field work throughout their clinical experience. Due to the circumstances, her 70-day student teaching assignment is going to take place, hopefully, in one high school setting. The university will provide additional support to Mrs. Glass during her assignment. Do you have any questions?
Dr. Powers, does the waiver committee have a recommendation on waiver B?
The Waiver Committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by Western Kentucky University. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board approve the waiver request.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Elijah Edwards, I make the motion to approve the waiver.
Beth Spradlin, second.
Thank you. The motion by Mr. Edwards, a second by Ms. Spradlin. The motion before the board is to approve waiver B. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Moving now to Waiver C on page 227. This will be presented by Ms. Hawkinsmith. Ms. Hawkinsmith?
Waiver C is Western Kentucky University's submittal on behalf of Michelle Klein requesting to waive the 3 years of teaching experience for admission to a principal preparation program. Ms. Klein holds a school psychologist certificate, but has worked in a private school setting in an administrative capacity and with students in gifted programming. At the June board meeting, following the recommendation of the waiver committee, the board deferred the waiver, seeking more specific examples of Ms. Klein's experience in delivering instruction directly to students, not adult teachers. Western Kentucky University sought a more in-depth description of Ms. Klein's experience teaching students in a letter Ms. Klein submitted, accompanied by a letter of support from her building principal, verifying her teaching directly with students in the gifted programming.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the waiver committee have a recommendation in regards to Waiver C?
Yes, the waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Donna Hedgepath, I make a motion to approve waiver. Are we C?
We are C.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Amber
Amanda
Snell.
Ellis, second.
Amber Snell with the second. The motion before the board is to approve Waiver C. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rodzinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approved.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, abstain.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
And the motion in reference to Waiver C passes. Next, we have Waiver D. Ms. Hawkinsmith. Oh, and members, we're on page 233. Ms. Hawkinsmith.
Waiver D was submitted by Georgetown College on behalf of an applicant seeking to waive the required minimum GPA for admission to an initial undergraduate learning and behavior disorder program. The applicant did not meet the required GPA on the last 30 hours when she originally applied for the program and was told that she would need additional credit hours with good grades to work towards meeting that requirement. She took 12 additional hours and earned a 4.0. She is one 3-hour class with 6 quality points away from meeting the GPA admission requirement. Georgetown College indicated that the applicant is a single parent whose child suffered a serious health issue after birth, which impacted her coursework at the time. Her life and child have subsequently improved. Georgetown College indicated that the student has clearly indicated her commitment to the classroom now and does not want the student to be further delayed in starting a teacher preparation program.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the Waiver Committee have a recommendation regarding Waiver D?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by Georgetown College. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Donna Hedgepath, I make a motion to approve waiver D.
Dr. Hedgepath with the motion. Is there a second?
Amber
Susan
Snell.
Reber.
Ms. Snell with the second. The motion before the board is to approve Waiver D. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
And the motion in reference to Waiver D passes. Moving on to Waiver E on page 238. Ms. Hawkinsmith.
This waiver is submitted by Western Kentucky University on behalf of Ms. Algadas related to the assessment test recency requirement in Section 3 of 16 KAR 5020, the Admission to Educator Preparation Regulation. The regulation requires that assessment scores are good 5 years from the administration date. Western Kentucky University indicated that Ms. Algadas passed all her case admissions assessments in 2015 with scores much higher than the qualifying requirement, but was unable to complete her program in another state due to health issues with her son. Western Kentucky University noted that she now desires to re-enter a teacher preparation program, but her scores are 6 years old. Western Kentucky University states that her high GPA, high case scores in 2015, and her personal situation are reasons to waive the test recency so that she does not have to retake the assessments.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the Waiver Committee have a recommendation on Waiver E?
The Waiver Committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by Western Kentucky University. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion on Waiver E?
Elijah Edwards, I make the motion to approve Waiver E.
Thank you. A second?
Beth Spradlin, second.
Mr. Edwards with the motion, Ms. Spradlin with the second. The motion before the board is to approve Waiver E. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Moving on to Waiver F on page 247. Ms. Hawkinsmith.
This waiver is submitted by Georgetown College on behalf of Mr. Terrell Horton. Georgetown College requests a waiver of the regulatory requirement in 16 KAR 5020 for applicants of an initial graduate program to hold a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited college or university. Mr. Terrell possesses a bachelor's degree from a nationally accredited university, Full Sail University, and desires admission into Georgetown College's initial graduate program in learning and behavior disorders. The board at their April meeting approved revisions to 16 KIR 5020, which revised the bachelor's degree requirement to include regionally or nationally accredited college or university. This revised regulation is anticipated to become effective November 30th of this fall. Georgetown College would like to be able to admit him for the upcoming semester.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Does the Waiver Committee have a recommendation on Waiver F?
The Waiver Committee reviewed the waiver requests submitted by Georgetown College. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Beth Spradlin, make a motion to approve waiver F.
Ms. Spradlin with the motion. Is there a second?
Second, Amanda Ellis.
Dr. Ellis with the second. Thank you. The motion before the board is to approve waiver F. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, yes.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Halig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
And the motion passes. Moving on to waiver G on page 250. Ooh, that's not right. Waiver G, 250. We have Ms. Hawkinsmith.
This waiver was submitted by Georgetown College on behalf of Ms. Christina McLeod. Georgetown College requests a waiver of the regulatory requirement in 16 KIR 5020 for applicants of an initial graduate program to hold a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited college or university. Ms. McLeod possesses a bachelor's degree from a nationally accredited college, Daymar College, and desires admission into Georgetown College's initial graduate program in learning and behavior disorders. The board at their April meeting approved revisions to this regulation, which revised the bachelor's degree requirement to include regionally or nationally accredited college or university. This revised regulation is anticipated to become effective November 30th of this fall. Georgetown College would like to be able to admit him for the upcoming semester.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the Waiver Committee have a recommendation on waiver G?
The Waiver Committee reviewed the waiver requests submitted by Georgetown College. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Elijah Edwards, I make the motion to approve the waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Is there a second?
Susan Reber, second.
And Ms. Reber with the second. The motion before the board is to approve waiver G. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Halig,
Drew and Vasquez Heilig approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Moving on to waiver H. I'm on page 253. Ms. Hawkinsmith.
This waiver is just like the previous two waivers. It's submitted by Georgetown College on behalf of Mr. Larry Jones. They're requesting a waiver of 16 KAR 5020 for applicants of an initial graduate program to hold a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited college or university. Mr. Jones possesses a bachelor's degree from a nationally accredited university, Full Sail University, and desires admission into Georgetown College's initial graduate Learning and Behavior Disorders program. And the board at their April meeting did approve that revision, which allows for regionally or nationally accredited college or university, the bachelor's degree from that, either one of those institutions.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the waiver committee have a recommendation on waiver H?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by Georgetown College. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Wade Stanfield, I would like to offer the motion for the approval of waiver H.
Mr. Stanfield with the motion. Is there a second?
Sarah Weedman, I second the motion.
Ms. Weedman with the second. Thank you. The motion before the board is to approve waiver H. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber.
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski.
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin.
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield.
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Drew and Vasquez Heilig approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on waiver H passes. We'll move on to waiver I. I'm on page 256, and Ms. Crystal Horde, welcome.
Thank you. Waiver I is requested by Montgomery County Schools. It is a waiver of 16 KAR 2120, which is the Emergency Certificate Requirements Regulation. The district is requesting a waiver of the GPA requirement of this regulation, which is a 2.5 cumulative on a bachelor's degree on a 4.0 scale, or a 3.0 on the last 60 hours completed on the 4.0 scale. Montgomery County Schools is trying to fill a special education learning behavior disorder position. They've been struggling to find certified applicants in many areas, including this one. They have a candidate who is just under the 2.5 requirement. He is pursuing coursework to get admitted into an Option 6 program to pursue teacher certification. But first, he has to complete that coursework to raise his GPA for admission. In the meantime, while he's working on that, the district is requesting this GPA waiver of the regulation.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the waiver committee have a recommendation on waiver I?
Waiver committee reviewed the waiver request submitted by Montgomery County Schools. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the waiver.
Dr. Ellis with the motion. Is there a second?
Beth Spradlin, second.
And Ms. Spradlin with the second. Thank you. The motion before the board is to approve waiver I. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, please call the roll for us. Thank you.
Elijah Edwards.
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis.
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approved.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approved, sorry.
oh, okay. Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Radzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Jillian Vasquez Halle,
Julian Vasquez highly approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on waiver I passes. Moving on to waiver J. I'm on page 258 of the agenda book. Ms. Horde.
Thank you. Waiver J is requested by Ms. Katie Jenkins. This is a waiver of the renewal regulation 16 KAR 4060. The regulation requires for an educator to renew a certificate, they must obtain 3 years of teaching experience or 6 semester hours of new graduate coursework since that certificate was last issued or renewed. Ms. Jenkins is certified in elementary education. She has 1 year of eligible teaching experience in her area, teaching 4th grade in Paducah Independent Schools during the 16-17 school year. Excuse me, her certificate just expired June 30th of this year. She has 3 semester hours of graduate credit since her last renewal, so she doesn't meet the 6-hour requirement. But then she also has 2 years of teaching experience with the Challenger Learning Center, teaching STEM curriculum to elementary level students, but it's not it's not in a public school system, and it's not in an accredited non-public school. So she was requesting a waiver on the experience based on that experience at Challenger Learning Center.
Thank you. Dr. Powers, does the waiver committee have a recommendation regarding waiver J?
Yes. The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by the applicant. The committee did not find exceptional circumstances to justify the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board deny the waiver request.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Make the motion to support the waiver committee and deny the request.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Is there a second?
Sarah Weedman, I second the motion.
Ms. Weedman with the second. The motion before the board is to deny waiver J. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Point of information, we're voting on the motion, right? So I'm going to say approve, even though the approval is to deny the waiver or the waiver.
That is correct. The motion is to deny the waiver, waiver J. If you agree with that motion to deny, your vote would be approve or yes. If you disagree with that, your vote would be disapprove or no.
Okay, so Elijah Edwards agreed to the motion.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, yes.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, yes, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, yes, approved.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, yes.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Radzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Jillian Vasquez Halle,
Julian Vasquez highly approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion to deny waiver J passes. Last, we have waiver K. Waiver K, and I am on page 261. Ms. Board.
Okay, thank you. Waiver K is requested by Ms. Jennifer Zimmerman. She is requesting a waiver of 16 KAR 8010, which is the rank 1 regulation, but this is actually a combination of rank 1 and rank 2. Ms. Zimmerman is currently enrolled in a PhD program at Bellarmine University for education and social change with a specialization in special education. Ms. Zimmerman is currently certified teacher holding certification in moderate and severe disabilities. The program that she has completed, or the program that she's currently enrolled in, she has not completed the degreed program yet. It is not an approved rank 2 or rank 1 program through Bellarmine. However, it is coursework in special education and in education in general. She's completed in the 75 graduate hours so far. 24 of those hours are in the area of special education. The remaining hours are in the areas of educational research and education and social change. So she is requesting that the board grant her request to receive rank 1, which would take her from rank 3 to rank 1 because she exceeds the 60 hours of graduate coursework completed.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Does the waiver committee have a recommendation on waiver K?
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by the applicant. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the board grant the waiver.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Is there a motion?
Elijah Edwards, I motion to approve the waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Is there a second?
Roy Stanfield, second.
And Mr. Stanfield with the second. Thank you. The motion before the board is to approve waiver K. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll for us?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rudzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Halig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approved.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on waiver K passes. Thank you to everyone who presented on those waivers. We will now move on to alternate routes to certification applications. We have 4 alternate route to certification applications today. These applicants are pursuing the option 1 exceptional work experience route to certification. This is one of the alternate routes established by the legislature in KRS 161.048. An applicant with the exceptional work experience must have an offer of employment from a local school district, a bachelor's or graduate degree meeting minimum GPA requirements, and an academic major or a passing score on the academic content assessment in the area where certification is being sought. The board will need to determine if the applicant's work experience constitutes exceptional work experience. The applications will be presented by Ms. Horde. We will start with alternate route A, and we're on page 266. Ms. Horde.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Application A is for Miss Heidi Abraham. This application is being requested by Harlan County Schools for the area of music. We are actually going to request the board to defer this application until the October meeting. The requirements of the statute require that the applicant hold either an academic content major in the area they're seeking certification or have a passing score on the academic content assessment. Ms. Abraham has a major in business. She's seeking music, therefore we need a music content assessment. We expected to have that score, that passing score by today. We do not have that. So we are asking to defer until October. And as I understand, this will require a vote to defer.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Are there any questions? Is there a motion on alternate route A?
I make a motion to defer.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis, with the motion. Is there a second?
Sherry Powers, second.
Dr. Powers with the second. So the motion before the board is to defer consideration of the application for alternative route to certification A. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers, Sherry Powers. I think you may be muted.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Okay. Susan Reber,
Susan Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approved.
Julian Vasquez, High League,
Julian Vasquez High League, approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Next, we'll move on to alternative route to certification, letter B, on page 292. Ms. Horde?
Yes, thank you. Item B is requested by Scott County Schools on behalf of Mr. Stuart Ryan Blood. They are seeking certification in the area of secondary chemistry grades 8 through 12 through option 1. Mr. Blood has over 5 years of work experience in the field of chemistry and clinical research. He's worked as a clinical research associate in pharmaceutical trial studies in the area of ALS, and has been responsible for the clinical trials, as well as other laboratory and research work that he has participated in. He has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, as well as a master's degree in bioengineering. All materials were present. He was not required to pass the content assessment due to his related bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, and all materials were present, and he met the requirements of the statute.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Is there a motion on alternate route item B?
I make a motion to approve alternate route B.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Is there a second?
Stanfield, second.
Mr. Stanfield with the second. So the motion before the board is to approve the application for alternative route to certification, item B, Stuart Blood. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber,
And Reber, approve.
Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve. Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approved.
Julian Vasquez High League,
Julian Vasquez High League, approved.
Sarah Weedman,
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on item B passes. We'll move on to alternative route to certification, item C. Gretchen Burton and Ms. Horde.
Thank you. Item C is requested by Taylor County Schools on behalf of Ms. Gretchen Burton for the area of business and marketing education, grades 5 through 12. Ms. Burton has over 10 years of work experience in the business and marketing field as a loan or in the banking industry, specifically as a loan and compliance officer. She's also been responsible for the marketing services, financial, with the financial background. She also has a bachelor's degree in accounting, but she also provided a passing score for the business and marketing content assessment. All materials were present and she met all requirements for this route.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Horde? Is there a motion in reference to the alternative route, item C?
Beth Spradlin, make a motion to approve alternative route C.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Wade Stanfield, second.
Ms. Spradlin with the motion, Mr. Stanfield with the second. The motion before the board is to approve alternative route application C, Gretchen Burton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Chesser, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, recuse.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers.
Susan Reber, Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Last, we have application D for Ginger Moser. Ms. Horde.
Thank you. This application, item D for Ginger Moser, is requested by Boone County Schools. Ms. Moser has over 10 years of work experience as an educational interpreter for all grade levels. She most recently has been employed by Boone County Schools, but also previously with Kenton County Schools. She's worked with the DHH staff to assist in communication with the students. She's also worked with occupational therapists and speech therapists and physical therapists in communication and interacting with the students that they serve. She has a bachelor's degree in interpreter training. Since this is related to the certification, no additional testing was required, and all requirements were present and met statute.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I will need a motion regarding alternative route application D.
Elijah Edwards, I make the motion to approve the application.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Amanda Ellis, second.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards with the motion, Dr. Ellis with the second. The motion before the board is to approve the application for letter D, Ginger Moser. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Chesser, will you please call the roll?
Elijah Edwards, Elijah.
Oh, I thought I unmuted, but I'd muted, I guess. Elijah Edwards, approve, sorry.
That's okay. Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber, Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Hollig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. And the motion on item D passes. Thank you to the members of the Kentucky Department of Education who presented all of those documentations and keeping us on track. Next, we'll move on to board comments. I will open the floor to any board member for board comments. Does anyone have anything that they wish to share? I don't see anything in the comments or anyone choosing to share anything or make any comments at this time. So we will move on. At this time, I believe we are ready to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810, subsection 1C and J, to conduct a character and fitness review and to review potential actions relating to complaints and reports. The board will also review pending litigation. At this time, I will need a motion to enter into closed session.
Amber Snell, I make a motion to enter into closed session.
Amber Snell with the motion, and a second. I heard you, Dr. Powers.
Yes, I second the motion.
Thank you. A motion and second to enter closed session. Ms. Chester, please call the roll.
Elijah Edwards,
Elijah Edwards, approve.
Amanda Ellis,
Amanda Ellis, approve.
Donna Hedgepath,
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers,
Sherry Powers, approve.
Susan Reber, Lisa Rosinski,
Lisa Rodzinski, approve.
Amber Snell,
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin,
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield,
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Hollig,
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approved.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. The motion passes, and we are now ready to move into closed session. Thank you. We are now back in open session, and at this time, we will vote on those items discussed during closed session. Character and fitness. Approve number 1 with conditions. Number 2 through 5, approve. Number 6, approve with conditions. Number 7 through 13, approve. Number 14, approve with conditions. Numbers 15 through 17, approve. And number 18, defer. Moving to the CA-4 online, character and fitness. Numbers 1 and 2, approve. 3 and 4, deny. 5 through 14, approve. Moving to agreed orders. Numbers 1 through 15, accept. Findings of fact, conclusions of law, recommended order, and appeal rights. Number 1, accept on findings of fact, accept on conclusions of law, and accept on recommended order. Number 2, accept on findings of fact, modify on conclusions of law to align with board decisions, and recommended order, modify to align with board decisions. Number 3, finding of fact, accept. Conclusions of law, accept. Recommended order, accept. Number 4, findings of fact, accept. Conclusions of law, accept. Recommended order, accept. Moving to educator cases. Number 1, admonish and train. Student-teacher boundaries, professionalism, and educator ethics. Number 2, attorney review. Number 3, admonish and train, educator ethics. Number 4, admonish and train, professionalism and educator ethics. Number 5, admonish and train, educator ethics and technology and confidentiality. Number 6, admonish and train, ethics and evaluation training. Number 7, dismiss. Numbers 8 through 13, attorney review. Numbers 14 through 19, attorney review. Numbers 21, 22, and numbers 20, 21, and 22, defer for training admin code. 23, defer for training classroom management. 24, attorney review. 25, defer for training OEA recommended training. 26 and 27, refer for a hearing. 28 and 29, defer for a period of 3 months. 30, attorney review. 31, 32, and 33, admonish. 34, admonish and train with a 3-month deadline. Number 35, admonish. 36, admonish and train with a 3-month deadline. 37, admonish. 38, admonish and train with a 3-month deadline. 39 through 42, admonish. 43, attorney review. 44, 45, and 46, no further action. 47, admonish. 48, attorney review. 49, admonish. 50 through 62, dismiss. We will now vote on these items discussed. Ms. Sharp, please call the roll.
Amanda Ellis. Amanda Ellis, I approve all. Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve all.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve on all.
Lisa Ruzinski.
Lisa Ruzinski, approve to all.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve to all.
Beth Spradlin.
Beth Spradlin, agree to all.
Wade Stanfield.
Wade Stanfield, approve to all.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve all.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve all.
Voting is complete.
Thank you. Now that voting is complete, that concludes our agenda. The next board meeting will be on October the 11th, 2021, and members, watch your email as we see what's happening with the health and illness in the state. We'll make a determination about what format and with applicable law, what format the meeting will be in. I wish everyone a happy school year, a good school year, be safe and be healthy. And at this time, I will need a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to offer a motion that we adjourn.
I heard Mr. Stanfield and then I heard
I'll
Dr.
second.
Ellis. Motion and a second. The motion before the board is a motion to adjourn. Hearing no discussion, Ms. Sharp, please call the roll.
Amanda Ellis. Amanda Ellis, approve. Donna Hedgepath.
Donna Hedgepath, approve.
Sherry Powers.
Sherry Powers, approve.
Lisa Ruzinski.
Lisa Ruzinski, approve.
Amber Snell.
Amber Snell, approve.
Beth Spradlin.
Beth Spradlin, approve.
Wade Stanfield.
Wade Stanfield, approve.
Julian Vasquez Heilig.
Julian Vasquez Heilig, approve.
Sarah Weedman.
Sarah Weedman, approve.
Voting is complete.
And that motion carries unanimously. This meeting is now adjourned. We'll wait just a moment until the technology folks tell us we're clear.